She told me she was pregnant. I froze shocked at first, then overwhelmed with joy. But before I could fully embrace the moment, she cut in with a cold smile. "Don't worry, it's not yours. I just wanted to see if you'd be supportive." I didn't speak, just stood there stunned. She laughed like it was all some harmless joke, until a few days later when she opened an email from my attorney. But before we get there, I just want to say, thanks for sticking with me. It means a lot if you enjoy hearing stories like this. 1. Maybe think about subscribing. Only a small % of people who watch are actually subscribed, and just one click really helps more than you'd think. No, back to the kind of cold that makes your blood run still, the kind I never imagined coming from. My wife Helena, we met in law school. I was focused on intellectual property law. She was all about family law. We were that couple, top of our class, both on law review, both landing solid jobs right out of school. We got married 3 years ago, bought a house in the suburbs, built a life together. The only thing missing was children. I always wanted them eventually. She was unsure but said we could revisit it once we both made partner. That plan got knocked off course when my father was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Watching him decline changed me in ways I couldn't describe. During one of our last real conversations, he told me his biggest regret was spending so much time working that he missed too much of my childhood. "Don't make that mistake," he said. "When you have kids, that's what matters in the end." After his passing, I started rethinking everything, especially the importance of family. I realized I didn't want to wait to be a father. Helena seemed supportive. We talked about maybe starting sooner than planned. She seemed open, I believed her. Then came that Tuesday. I got home from work and saw her at the kitchen table looking unusually serious. "We need to talk," she said. "If you've ever lived in a house full of lawyers, you know those words aren't thrown around lightly." "What's going on?" I asked. "I'm pregnant." Time stopped. My brain stuttered, then surged forward in joy. I felt my dad's words echoing through me, almost like he was there smiling. I took a step forward. That's incredible," I said. She didn't smile. Her face stayed flat. "It's not yours," she said. "I just needed to see how you'd react." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "I'm not actually pregnant," she added. "It was a test. You've been so fixated on kids lately, I had to know if you were serious and emotional." Test, that's what she called it, using the most vulnerable part of my life. My father's death, my longing to be a dad, as a way to gauge my emotional temperature. I asked her if this was supposed to be some twisted experiment. She just shrugged. "You passed, though. You were really sweet." I couldn't speak. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just stood up, grabbed my keys and walked out. She laughed, called after me. Not to be so dramatic, it was hypothetical. She shouted, but I didn't look. Back that night, I checked into a hotel. I didn't respond to her texts or calls. I wasn't sulking. I was working, thinking, planning. Because, unlike her, I don't make moves out of anger. I make them with intention. By the next morning, I had a plan. I worked remotely from the hotel, made a few important phone calls, got some documents in motion. Then that evening I came home like nothing had happened. "You can't just disappear like that," she snapped. I was worried sick. "I needed time to think," I said quietly, "about what it was. Just a test. Most people would laugh it off." "Most people," I said, "don't use their partner's dead father and deepest dreams as bait." She tried to argue, said I was being unfair, but I reminded her of the other tests she'd done over the years. The fake text to make me think she was meeting her ex, the time she claimed she lost her job to see if I'd step up financially. She looked away. "This is just your pattern," I said. For the next 10 days, I played the part of the doting husbandee. Was polite, calm, predictable. She thought I'd forgiven her. She even joked about the fake pregnancy over the phone with a friend loud enough for me to hearten on the 10th day. She got the emails. She called me immediately, panic rising in her voice. "What the hell is this?" "It's exactly what it looks like," I said. "Divorce papers over a joke. Not just divorce," I clarified. "Check the next attachment. 2 years ago, we pulled money from my inheritance and bought a commercial building downtown the Planways to start a side consulting firm. In one of the offices, rent the others out. It was owned through an LLC. I had put in 70% of the capital." "You can't just cut me out," she shouted over the phone. "We both own it. Look at Section 3.2 of the operating agreement." I told her in the event of a personal split, either party can buy out the other share at market value. That's our retirement. She yelled, "You can't just I'm buying your share at market value, plus 10% inconvenience fee." I said, "The funds are in escrow. You'll receive around 127. 0 pending divorce proceedings. She called me insane, said I was throwing away 5 years over nothing. It wasn't nothing. I said it was a test and this time you failed. Then I hung up. The aftermath was chaos calls, emails, voicemails from her family, even mutual. Friends, I answered none of them, except with short, calm texts confirming logistics that evening. She stormed into the house as I was packing a suitcase. "You think you can just erase everything we've built?" she screamed. I zipped up the bag and looked her in the eyes. "I'm not erasing anything," I said. "I'm just done pretending it meant more to you than it did to me." She stood in the doorway, blocking my way, her tone accusing. I calmly corrected her, not out of anger, but based on patterns I had come to recognize. I sat on the edge of the bed. After I left that night, I started making a list of all the tests you've put me through. Over the years, I counted 27, that I could remember, each one designed to provoke a reaction, to see how far I'd go to prove myself. Her expression wavered for the first time. I also reviewed our texts. I continued, "It's interesting how often some crisis would arise. Right before something important in my life, my bar exam, my dad's funeral, the Thompson case, each time you pulled me away from what mattered to force me to center you. Instead," she scoffed, "you're reaching. None of that was intentional. Shrugged maybe, but the pregnancy test that crossed the line, you took my grief and my longing for a child and used them as tools to manipulate me. That's when I finally saw it clearly. It was just one mistake," she shouted. "No," I said quieter. It was the moment that revealed the truth. As I packed my things, her tone shifted, tears replaced anger. She apologized, promised therapy, pleaded for another chance. When that failed, she turned to threats, talked about dragging out the divorce, smearing my name, damaging my reputation. At work, I kept packing. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't try to win. I just left. "Cleanly." "What about the house?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's yours," I replied. "I've already talked to the bank. I'll stay on the mortgage until the divorce is finalized. Then you can decide what to do with it." She blinked, stunned. "You're giving me the house. I'm giving you exactly what the law says you're entitled to. Nothing more. Nothing less. The house has $180,000 in equity. Half of that is mine. I'm letting you keep my share in exchange for a clean break. But the agreement includes a non-disparagement clause. If you lie about me to anyone, professionally you lose the house entirely." That weekend, I moved into a furnished apartment downtown. The divorce moved quickly, surprisingly. So for 2 lawyers, within 3 months it was finalized. The property was transferred. The house became hers. The bank accounts were split throughout the process. Helena cycled through every possible strategy, begging, accusing, manipulating, threatening, but I remained steady. I never fought. I never took more than my fair share. I just removed myself like a surgeon making a precise incision. The most unexpected part came 2 months later. Helena's sister Jane, who had once criticized me relentlessly, sent a text. "I owe you an apology." It read, "Helena just pulled the same pregnancy stunt on her new boyfriend. When I confronted her, she denied ever doing it to you. I'm sorry, I didn't believe you." I didn't reply, but I kept the message. Last week, I saw Helena at a bar association event. She was laughing loudly with a colleague, clearly performing. I nodded in acknowledgement and returned to my conversation later. She approached me. "You could have just talked to me instead of blowing up our lives," she said, tension in her voice. I looked at her. "Would you have listened?" She didn't answer. "For what it's worth," I said. "I hope you find what you're looking for. That's it," she asked, disbelief on her face. 5 years, and that's all you have to say?" I picked up my drink and turned to leave. Then I paused. "Actually, one more thing. I've started therapy to understand why I let it go on so long. Turns out I've got some work to do too." As I walked away, she called out, "So this was revenge because I hurt your feelings?" I turned back. "No, Helena, this wasn't revenge. And it wasn't a test, it was a boundary." I haven't heard from her since. Some people have said my response was extreme. Maybe it was, but there's a sharp clarity that comes from walking away from someone. Whose is your deepest pain? As a lever to be pulled, that pregnancy test didn't just hurt, it exposed everything. It showed me that the person I trusted most saw my vulnerability as something to exploit. The legal notice from my lawyer wasn't an act of retaliation. It was the beginning of my freedom. And it worked. It's been 6 months since the divorce was finalized. I've had people ask how things ended up, so I'll explain. Even though we were both lawyers, we each hired separate attorneys. Mine was a partner at my firm specializing in family law. Hers was from another firm entirely to avoid conflicts. As for our possessions, the division was simple. I kept my personal belongings and my home office setup. She kept everything else, which made the clean break easier for both of us. My furnished apartment made it even simpler. The house share financed it into her name shortly after everything was settled. I paid my share of the mortgage during the 3-month divorce process. Just as we'd agreed, the office building LLC, that buyout, handled properly with 2 independent valuations. I added a 10% bonus as a way to settle quickly and cleanly, not as part of the assessed value. Some people think I gave up too much, maybe, but I wasn't measuring success by what I kept. I measured it by how thoroughly I reclaimed my peace.